Hello, welcome. Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today in Unit 20, Economic, Social and Cultural Dimensions of Globalization. We are continuing our topic, Social Dimensions of Globalization. And we start our lecture, Migration and Urbanization. Migration is not a new phenomena. People have always left their homes in search of better economic opportunities, both within and outside their own homeland. But the current pace of economic globalization has put a new spin on global migration, causing global uprootedness and human displacement on an unprecedented scale. Estimates say that nearly 1 out of 6 people in this world, more than 1 billion people, are crossing national borders as migrant workers. Migration for many becomes not a choice but an economic necessity, mainly because of unequal development between nations and between rural and urban centers. Urbanization is an important driving force for communities because urban areas offer many economic opportunities to rural people. Urban labor markets offer opportunities to switch jobs rapidly, diversify incomes, and become upwardly mobile. With a very low asset base and skills, although there is a lot of variation in the rate of urbanization around the world. The pattern of economic force, not the rate of economic force, acts as a determining factor in the increasing rate of urbanization. Economic growth based on the expansion of manufacturing industry, a trademark of the current globalization, tends to be associated with higher rates of urbanization, while growth based on the expansion of agriculture is associated with the reverse. Though it is too early to say with certainty how agreements through WTO will affect urbanization, it is predicted that if the economic growth pattern is shifted towards manufacturing, there is likely to be higher rate of urbanization that there would be with agriculture based growth. It is likely, therefore, that countries such as China, whose comparative advantage lies mainly in labor-intensive manufactured produces, will see an acceleration of the rural-urban migration, both temporary and long-term. The driving force will be the expansion of labor-intensive exports, which will boost the demand for the labor in urban areas and widen wage gaps between rural and urban areas. South Asia, on the other hand, is likely to have a greater emphasis on agricultural produce and export of skilled services such as IT, both of which may not create such a great demand for labor in urbanized areas. At the same time, cheap imports are a result of liberalization measures and low import tariffs can threaten the local agricultural production systems, with the result that illiterate people with a limited skills base might migrate to urban areas in search of work. There is also evidence that in India people move away from the farming sector due to macroeconomic reforms where reduction of subsidies and removal of inter-district movement of grains have put smaller farmers out of business. In such cases, the option before them is to migrate to the places where there are better economic opportunities. Now the next topic is commercialization of indigenous knowledge. The globalization process invades territories, habitats and resources of the indigenous people, which may lead to destruction of their way of life. Big corporate entities get access to indigenous knowledge and patent it for their gain and profit. The result can be that indigenous people and the rest of the humanity will have to pay for access to the knowledge that will thus have been commercialized. Pharmaceutical corporations in the United States of America, under the auspices of Human Genomes Diversity Program, are patenting the indigenous people themselves. They monopolize the use of seed, medicines and traditional knowledge system and human genomes. Even the life-supporting systems of the humanity, such as the land, water, wildlife, aquatic life and mineral resources, became commodities in the present globalization process at the cost of the lives and livelihoods of the vast majority around the world. This may result in the environmental devastation and social displacement, wiping out of the cultural and biological diversity. Also, the centralized management of natural resources imposed by the trade and investment agreements does not have space for intergenerational and intragenerational sustainability. Now the next point is rising inequality in wealth concentration. Globalization is a very uneven process with unequal distribution of benefits and losses. In the ongoing process of globalization, investment resources, growth and modern technology are focused in a few countries such as North America, Europe, Japan, and the East Asian countries, which are the newly industrialized countries of the world. The majority of the developing countries are excluded from the process and participating in marginal ways that are often detrimental to their interest. For example, import liberalization may harm their domestic producers, and financial liberalization may cause instability. Globalization affects different categories of countries differently. While growth and expansion is visible in fully participating countries, moderate and fluctuating growth is seen in some countries attempting to fit into the new globalized framework, and the marginalization and deterioration are experienced by many countries unable to get out of the acute problems such as commodity prices and debt. The uneven and unequal nature of the present globalization process is manifested in the fast growing gap between the world's rich and poor people, and between developed and developing countries, and in the large differences among nations in the distribution of gains and losses. Polarization among the countries has also been accompanied by increasing income inequalities within the countries. In India, average incomes rose more rapidly in urban areas than in rural areas between 1993 and 2000, implying the widening gap between the rural and the urban areas. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for patientful hearing.